Welcome everyone once again to our regular weekly show on U2 Spain, where we ask the experts what you want to know about moving to Spain. I'm Skatz. Please excuse my cold. I'm still blocked up. Appropriately today, we're going to be talking about all things to do with health insurance for your Spanish visa. Plus, of course, we'll be answering questions from viewers on YouTube and Facebook on that and anything else to do with moving to Spain, because our expert today is a bit of an all-round expert. So stick around to the end and enjoy the show. And of course, you can ask questions as usual on the live chat if you're watching live, or in the comments below if you're watching the recording. Within a few days of the live show, you can find the time codes for all of the answers you need in the video description below to save you having to scroll through and find them whenever you need them. So welcome to U2 Spain. Cue the groovy Spanish music. So just before we begin, don't forget you can get your very own U2 Spain t-shirts and goodies and hoodies from our merchandise page, and you can post questions on U2 Spain Facebook group and chat with people like you who are moving to Spain or have done so already. And the links to all of that can be found in the video description below. And once again, we're going to be having some prizes to give away for the best questions and comments from you on the show and afterwards. So without further ado, let's meet my guest for the day. It's Lyndon Greensit from Go Spain. Good morning, Lyndon.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Nice sunny day here, but a bit cold.
Yeah, same here. You're a little bit further north. You're in Granada province, is it?
We're up in the mountains in the Sierra Nevada, so it's cold.
Yeah. Beautiful. You get the snow up there. We don't go. We've got mountains, but no snow. We're nearer the coast.
Yeah, it's like living next to a fridge or a freezer. The mountains are right at the back of us, and it's covered in snow at the moment. So yeah.
Brilliant. So, first of all, I'm going to say a big thank you to Lyndon for your Facebook group and the website and the e-magazine, and all of which are crammed full of great advice and lovely people. And also thanks for allowing me to ask questions on the Facebook group for this show. It's all in the spirit of cooperation. Thank you for that. And you have actually the latest issue of the magazine coming out. Is it next week?
It's not the latest issue of the magazine. It's a special edition, because what we're doing is we are getting all the questions that people ask about moving to Spain, such as healthcare, such as which visa, such as things like that. What is IPREM explained, S1, even pensions. We've got a pension expert who's going to be providing some information on switching pensions between Spain and the UK, and what investments are tax effective in the UK, but maybe not in Spain. So it's things like that, rather than the usual stuff of travel and food. And so in that way, it's just bringing everything together, all the questions that people might want to know about moving to Spain, into the one edition.
Brilliant. Oh, that sounds extremely helpful.
And it's going to be updated as well, because, as you know, things like IPREM have changed. So the financial requirements have also changed for people who want to apply for the non-lucrative visa.
Yeah, of course. And we've had a lot of the experts that write for your magazine. We've had quite a few of them on the show. So, and we'll probably have the rest of them on at some point soon as well. So that'll be great. So as well as giving advice about moving to Spain in general, you're a bit of an expert in health insurance. So are you an agent or a broker, and what's the difference, and who's the best to approach?
I think I'm somewhere in between the two. The difference between an agent and a broker is an agent works for the company, so their job is to sell their products. A broker, in theory, is somebody who's representing you, so their job should be to get you the best deal. I don't think it always works out like that, because brokers, for example, I used to work in the financial services background. That's where I come from. And obviously they get commission. Now, some companies will be paying 5%, 7.5%. Some will pay more, 15%, 20%. So if you go to a broker, they will be sort of perhaps thinking in the back of their mind that, I want commission. So it's not necessarily, they don't necessarily always give the best advice. The other thing that I think in respect of a broker, and I did quite a few sort of a bit of research into the prices that people were offering, that brokers were offering. Now, I work mainly with ASA. So I actually asked a broker, a very well-known broker, for a cost of ASA insurance. Now, obviously, I know the costs because I've got them all in front of me. And they came back with a price that was more than I was offering. So, and I think what a lot of them do is they perhaps add a little bit on. I know very well that some actually charge for quotations. If they provide a quotation and then you take it out, they'll charge a little bit more for it. So, it's things like that. I think I'm a little bit in between the two. I'm probably a bad agent in that I probably don't represent the company as well as I should, because I actually tell people, if it is, if it's something that's good for them, I will tell them, and I'll also give them information, about, so the bad aspects of the company as well. I did quite a bit of work for Salas as well last year, and I was never a great fan of Salas, and we'll come on to that at this point later, really. It was surrounded by the fact that waiting times were, as you know, you need to have your waiting times, and the company were, should we say, that the certificate that they issued said there was no waiting times and it complied. But when you look at the actual policy documentation, waiting times were still in there. And then what I would do as an agent is I tell people this because I want to sleep at night. It's things like that are very important. So in that respect, I'm probably a bad agent, and I'm more sort of geared towards broker and representing.
Good for you. I think that sounds like a much better idea. An honest agent.
Yeah.
So let's get straight on to some questions. First of all, what's the question you get asked most about health insurance?
I suppose it's not the question I get asked the most. It's the question that I get asked the most that irritates me the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the question is, how much is health insurance? Because it pops up quite regular, and it's not so much the question that irritates me, it's the actual answers, because that type of question elicits so many responses, and it ranges from, well, I pay 2,000 a year to I pay 500 a year. Well, you're 65, you're 35, of course there's a difference. And then you've got this people sort of going back and forth saying, well, I only pay 50 a month, I pay monthly, you pay, and it goes on and on and on. And the real answer is to that question is there's actually no answer. You need to sit down and you need to get a quote, and you need to look at sort of each individual policy. So recommendations, I mean, that's difficult.
Yeah, the same kind of thing, isn't it? Same kind of question.
You need to ask questions, and you need to, especially if it's for the non-lucrative visa, you need to ask, certain questions like, are the co-payments, are the waiting times, and can you actually increase the price by age? So, and also what, I'll come on to this later, waiting times, for example. ASA don't have any waiting times whatsoever. So there are no waiting times. Other companies are the same. They won't have any waiting times. And yet you've got somebody perhaps like DKV, who, again, I know very well because I've worked with them. They say they've no waiting times, but there are waiting times for hospitalisation. So they sort of do the bare minimum in order to, qualify for non-lucrative visa. So can I recommend anybody? I'll recommend ASA. I tend to do, just because I think they're one of the better ones, and they sort of tick all the boxes when it comes to non-lucrative visas. But there are others out there. some are more expensive than others. And I
I'd
mentioned,
say,
funnily enough, I mentioned Salas before. Last year, I wouldn't recommend them at all because of the waiting times. This time, they've got their act together and they have quite a good policy. And they've gone from cheap to quite expensive.
So the best thing for Tracy Cook, who asked that question, best thing for you to do, Tracy, is get in touch with Lyndon, and he'll give you some answers.
It's get quotes. But as I say, I work with. I suppose another point, going back to the broker and the agent. When I first got to Spain, I lived in Javier, and I got my health insurance through a broker in Javier. And when I needed anything, actually, it was my wife needed a CAT scan. And it was messing about because we were going through the broker who then went through ASA. It was an ASA policy. So you had this sort of middleman. And I don't know if it's true with all the brokers, but, I think that was the way it was then. Back then, it was 6-7 years ago. Whereas what I do is I work with Valentina, who's one of the ASA managers. So if anybody ever needs anything, we just go straight to Valentina and she sorts it out. I mean, she even books things like the appointments. If you're struggling with your Spanish and you need somebody to contact at the hospital, she'll do that. So that's a subtle difference between perhaps a broker and what I do. Is I'm sort of in contact, and you would be in direct contact with ASA themselves. So you didn't even need to go through customer service. You would have one person there. And
that's very handy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do they calculate the insurance premiums? Because you can have a different age from your partner and have the same cost, can't you? Why is that?
Yeah, that's... if you're asking for a quote, generally the only thing that you need to know, or that I would need to know when I'm giving a quote, and it's the same for virtually everybody else, is your date of birth. Now, I also ask for where do you live, because that's important for another reason, but it's your date of birth. And the way the health insurance companies work it out is they sort of group you in groups of ages. So, for example, Salas. We'll take Salas because it's easiest. It goes up to 25, and then 25 up to 30, 30 up to 35, 35 to 40, all the way through the groups of 5. Another company, for example, will do up to 18, and then 18 to 35, 35 to 50. 50 to 60, 60 to 65, 65 to 70. So it changes. And if you fall within one of those groups, if you fall within, say, somebody could be 25, they will get the same price as anybody else in that age grouping, which might be 39. And you would stay in that grouping all the way up till you get to 39.
Yeah.
So, as I say, so it goes up to, for example, it goes up to 50, and then once you're 50, it's up to 55. But I think the question is, when do you become 50 for insurance purposes? And you might be surprised to know that you've actually got 2 birthdays. You've got your birthday and you've got your actuarial birthday. And your actuarial birthday, when it comes to 50 years old, is 49 years and 6 months. So once you reach 49 years and 6 months, you become 50. That's when the prices will start to go up. So if you are 49 now and you're sat there and you're thinking, well, I might need some health insurance, you should perhaps consider taking it a little bit earlier, because the difference might be, 300-400 a year.
Yeah.
But that difference would last for 5 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's an incredibly handy hint. So, some people will be very happy with that. You've saved them quite a lot of money.
Well, it's been frustrating last week because I've had a fair few people asking for quotes, and they all seem to be 60 years old. just approaching 60. I think it's when people start to think, well, I'm going to move to Spain now.
Yeah.
It's never when you're 58. It always, or in the last week, it always seems to be when you're 60. And I'm saying, oh God, no, because your price has just gone up by 300-400, and there's nothing that I can do about it.
Yeah. We've got. I'm going to zip down the questions actually, because there's so much that we can talk about with health insurance, and we've got quite a lot of questions coming. And we were going to cover quite a lot of things, so let's zip through them as quickly as we can, these ones, because we have people on the live chat asking things as well. We'll get to you, Wendy and Alan, shortly. So how are insurance premiums? Oh, we've already done that one. How long does it take to get insurance?
1 day.
1 day.
No.
So if you're...
I've done them in 1 day before. I mean, people... Somebody called me. Somebody actually rang me up. It's sod's law. It's usually when I'm in Granada, sat down having something to eat, and somebody sends you a message saying, "I've got my appointment tomorrow. Can you give me some health insurance?"
Wow.
And then it's generally 1 day we can push it through. But I would say if you've got any preconditions whatsoever, I'd give yourself 3 weeks, really. If you've no preconditions, you can do it, as I say, within 1 day. It's a few days at the very most. If you've got preconditions, then there might be a bit of going backwards and forwards, trying to, asking for a bit more information. If you broke your leg, which leg was it? Have you got any scans, or, if you've got any other sorts of, if you've had cancer, can we see your latest report? If you've had a blood test, we need to see that. Things like that. And that takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, of course.
So 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And of course, the policy itself can, so you may have an appointment at the beginning of February. Well, if you take the policy out now, it won't start till the beginning of February anyway. So there's no real advantage there to leaving it till the last minute.
Alan's asking, is it a case of looking at each company individually, or is there a comparison website?
There is a comparison website, but it's not very good. And the reason why I say that is it's a comparison website in general. It doesn't take into account the fact that you're applying for residency very well. So it, and it's a completely different. It is a completely different policy. So I would ask around. I mean, the main ones that you're looking at are people like Sanitas, people like ASA, Salas, DKV, MAPFRA. Those are the main ones that you're going to be looking at. And it doesn't take you long to go around and come up with a few quotes. But then, as I say, it's about asking questions to make sure that it's suitable.
Yeah. Does it have to be a Spanish provider? That's a question from Beverly Gray. Spanish, or can it be a UK?
It's got to be Spanish.
To be Spanish. Good stuff. The when the consulates ask for healthcare to be already set up by the date of the visa appointment in the UK, which means it starts before you get there, because it might take you 3 months to actually get there. That mean you're wasting up to 3 months worth of coverage, and it doesn't cover the whole of your first year. And can you do anything about that?
It takes up to 3 months. But we spoke to Valentina spoke to the consulates in Manchester, and what they said was that you can put a date down when you want the visa to start. So if you say, I want the visa to start in a month's time, what the consulate is doing in Manchester, I don't know if this is true of Edinburgh, I don't know if it's true of London, it may well be, but what they're doing is they are delaying looking at your visa application until nearer the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they might wait until the end of a week before it's due, and then they'll start to look at it and get it done. If you go to them and you don't actually put a visa start date, they will do it straight away. And I think, as we've seen, a lot of people have been applying to Manchester, and they've been getting results within a week. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that they know very well that your health insurance is going to start straight away, and they want to give you the decision and the ability to get over to Spain straight away. But essentially, yes, you will potentially lose some. Don't forget if you're feeling ill, get on the plane, go over to Spain, and nip into one of the hospitals. There you go.
That's the quick way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was speaking to the insurance company about this, and because one of the questions that I put to them was, well, could we do a 15-month policy now as well as a 12-month policy? And that's to just give people a little bit of extra time. And I said, well, can you not start the policy? Can you not give them because if you live in Spain now and you take out a policy, you get 2 months free. Yeah. Uh-huh. So the policy lasts for 12 months. You take it out it starts in February, but you don't pay till April. So that's what happens if you're here now, you're resident. That's and I think a few companies do that, but it doesn't happen if you are applying for a non-lucrative visa or a visa. And the reason they say is because it starts obviously on the day. So it'll start in February, and there are absolutely no waiting times whatsoever. So effectively, you can walk into the hospital next day and say, I need such a thing done. Are you with me?
Yeah.
What they do is they say, well, we're not giving people free because they can just nip on a plane, come over and, get treated.
Yeah.
It's,
So should we get on?
You will waste some time, but I say, the generally what you need to do is you need to have the policy start as late as possible. As late as possible.
Yeah, I don't think from reports that I've seen that Edinburgh and London are quite as accommodating on that, but Manchester are always a bit nicer, I think.
But even Manchester have said that the health policy or the health policy needs to mirror the visa. So if you turn around to them and say, well, I want my visa to start on the 1st of March, then your health policy can start on the 1st of March. Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue with that for many insurers is that once they've got you signed up and you've sort of signed up to that questionnaire and you've given them all the details of your health, they want that policy to start within 30 days. Yeah. Otherwise, they will say, well, your circumstances might have changed, therefore we want you to go through the application again itself. So that's the problem that we've got with that. And that's one of the reasons why we've also brought in a 15-month policy. As I say, I'm trying to work with Asset and trying to get a 1 month free. And I think that is possible.
Yeah. So let's get on to co-payments. If you're applying for the non-lucrative visa, you can't have any co-payments. So tell us about those and how do they affect premiums?
Co-payments are your excess. In the same way as you have a bump in your car, you pay the first £200. Yeah. That's essentially what a co-payment is. So every time you visit the doctor, you will pay anywhere between perhaps €1 and €10 each time you visit the doctor. That's not no issue really, but what it does is it brings your premiums down, and the greater your co-payments, the more your premiums come down. And I think that's fine. On my policy, I've got some co-payments, but they're pretty low co-payments. The higher you go, as I say, the more your co-payments are. The problems start is, if anything, if you get a serious illness. So no co-payments. I can walk in. If you've got a serious illness, you need a CAT scan, for example, it's free. There's no co-payments. Yeah. With some of the co-payments, they go up to around £250 or €250 a pop. So, it can, and usually, if you've got that sort of illness, the last thing you want to be thinking about is, I've got co-payments of 50, 100, 250, depending on what the treatment is. You just want to go in there and get it done. So you do need to think about, you wouldn't, obviously this isn't going to affect people with non-lucrative visas, but if you're just applying generally for health insurance, it's something that you do need to think about,
Yeah. This is a big thing. Pre-existing conditions is a huge thing. We've had quite a few questions about that. I'm going to flash them up on the screen as we talk about it. Wendy is actually asking a more complicated question, but she says she has pre-existing conditions. It might be worth just mentioning what they are, Wendy, so we can give you a better answer on that one. But let's talk about pre-existing conditions. How does this affect your non-lucrative visa?
It doesn't. And somebody asked me the other day, I've got pre-existing conditions. Does that mean my health insurance premium is going to go through the roof? And the answer to that is no. It will. Your premiums will still be the same whether or not you've got preconditions or not, generally. And the reason why that is, most insurance companies won't touch preconditions. They will insure you, but they won't insure the preconditions.
Yeah.
Again, there's probably a couple of different sort of levels to this. I'll talk about ASA because I work with ASA. What they do is, if you've got a precondition, they will exclude the precondition. That won't affect your visa application. And the reason why it won't affect your visa application is because even though they've excluded the precondition, they will still treat you as an emergency. And what they will also allow you to do is you can go and see the doctor as many times as you want with regards to that precondition. So you can have consultations every week if you want. But what they won't do is, if that consultation, say for example, you've got a pulmonary embolism and it was a precondition, and then you go and see your doctor and he says, well, I think what you need is a CAT scan on this. The CAT scan will not be covered. But all the consultations will. So, and other companies won't even do that. Other companies won't even allow you to have a consultation about it. Although how they police that, I've no idea. Because you walking into your doctors and saying, I've got a pulmonary embolism, and asking for some advice on that, how the insurer will get to be aware of that, I don't know. But yeah.
Okay. So the simple answer is you can get insurance.
You can get insured, yeah. Just going back to that as well, I had one. It depends on what we'll do is you'll fill in a questionnaire, and then the insurance company will sort of look into it a little bit more. So, for example, somebody a while back had a heart condition or maybe a stroke, and they were looking to move to one of the islands. So in this case, it depended on location. They were moving to one of the islands, and we went back and forth getting information on the condition, and the head office turned around and said, no, we can't cover them. We can't cover that condition because if there's an emergency, we need to do something about it. It's not covered. That's it. And the reason why they were turned down is because on the island there wasn't sufficient hospital coverage for that condition, and they said we would have to airlift them out to the mainland, and they weren't prepared to do that. See what I said? So again, if they'd have been in Malaga or they'd have been in Valencia or wherever, they'd have got coverage, no problem.
Okay, so it can depend on which area you're in as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Jim has a question that relates to something you said before. He's coming across in January of 23, but also turning 65 then. Is it worth getting insurance now due to actuarial birthday?
That's a good question. It will probably jump up 65 by about 300-400.
So it's worth it getting sick before more than 6 months in advance.
But and this is the point on this. Some companies increase your premiums each year. So you start off at 65, the next year they'll increase it because your age is increasing. Yeah, so it's going up maybe 6%, 7% each year. With ASA, they don't increase. You don't increase your premium due to age. They have a policy whereby they only increase your premium based on inflation. So, for example, in 2019, 2020, it was 0. I think then it went to 2% per annum. And this year, I don't think they've increased it. I don't think they've increased it this year. Now, of course, if your premiums don't increase by age, if you join when you're 55, or say when you're 54 years and 5 months, so you're in the 50 to 55 age group, yeah, that's the premium that you will pay effectively for the rest of your life, or while you're with ASA. And so we're not talking 200, 300 for 1 year. We're actually talking 200, 300 for the next 5, 10, 15 years. It can add up to a lot of money. So yes, and in fact, I've had one of those for a slightly different reason. A guy in the United States is coming over in July, and he was just turning 70. He was 74 years and about 4 months. And once you get to 75, it's like, it then becomes very difficult anyway to get an insurance policy. So he's taken one out now, and then just to get him actually locked into that price, and as got some insurance, and then he'll come over in July. So
Jim, that's a yes.
It is a yes, but if he's 65, don't forget he will be. And he comes from the UK. At some point in the future, he'll probably apply for S1. In the not too distant future. So it isn't a big issue for him, because he might only need it for a couple of years. And then he probably think, well, I'll switch over to S1. I've no need then for health insurance. So it may not be such a big benefit for him.
Okay, good point.
But what you could do, just going back to that, what you could do is you could take a policy out and pay monthly. And then you're there, and then what you do is you extend it and pay for a full year, because you'd still need to pay for a full year up front for the non-lucrative visa.
Yeah. Cool. Let's get on to Barry from Unitech Communications, a regular watcher. Hello to all of the other regulars we've got messages coming in on the live chat. I can't answer them all, but we've got to answer Barry, because he asks me something every week. It's what kind of monthly premiums? How much do I pay? He pays about 120 with BUPA, and I suppose the question is, can you change over from BUPA onto a policy?
BUPA, so he's looking at around one. Is that presumably that's pounds?
Yes,
120. So he's looking at around 1,400 a year. At that age, you were probably looking at around between 1,080 and 1,200 euros a year, off the top of my head.
Okay, that's perfect. So he's going to end up, and that's in pounds again.
1,000 between 1,080 and 1,200 euros.
Oh, so that's going to be a lot cheaper. So
yeah.
Great, good for you, Barry. And he says his BUPA policy covers all conditions with no excess, and it's dental included. So that's a pretty good policy.
Yeah, there's no excess. Yeah, it is a good policy. There's no excess on the ones that you would need here anyway. Just going back to dental, a lot of the companies will only have things like emergency dental treatment. They will have extractions, they'll have checkups, they may well have some cleaning involved in that as well. DKV are one of the companies that will provide a more extensive range of sort of dental cover in their policy. Somebody like ASA, it's extra, but you're talking about 60 euros a year.
Yeah. So follow up from Wendy. Pre-existing condition is breast cancer in remission. She's been told that private medical doesn't cover any treatment based on cancer.
No. Well, it's not just cancer. It's anything. It's anything. Unless you can find some provider that will cover you, which is very, very difficult because most of them won't touch it. I mean, for example, all the insurance companies that I've dealt with will say, for example, somebody's got a broken leg, or they'll ask you, which leg is it? Which bone is it? They'll perhaps want an X-ray. That won't be covered. So it's not just cancer. It's broken bones. As I say, my wife had a pulmonary embolism. That's not covered.
Yeah. And you're saying that to get the non-lucrative visa, it doesn't matter. It's just having a policy. If you can get the policy, that will cover you for the non-lucrative visa. Do the embassy check that to see whether you've got pre-existing conditions?
What I would always suggest is somebody's got a precondition and it's a serious precondition. You're really looking to get your foot in the door. Spain. I would choose a company that offers. Let's as I said before, some companies will offer emergency cover. They will offer consultations. That may be the best that you can hope for, unless you can find a very specialised company that would cover you for that condition. Those are the better companies to go to. And then what you need to do once you've been here for 1 year is you would need to apply for Convenio Especial. That is, I think it's about 58 a month. And that gives you access to the Spanish healthcare system, and it covers preconditions. So that's what I would advise people to do. But you've got that year where you need to just get through it.
Yes, we had a question about Spanish healthcare and the Convenio Especial. So that's whoever asked that question. I think it was Karen Stewart. Hello, Karen. She's got lots of other questions as well. Actually, let's get on to her question because it covers some of the things we were going to talk about. Let's put that one up on screen. It's 3 separate questions, and it is this one here. So can you clarify when we need the policy to start from, please? I think we've covered that bit. Last question. Yes, last question. I promise after a year in Spain, we can pay for the Convenio Especial. What's the price and benefit difference between that and private insurance?
Yes, you can. You've got to be here a year. It's 57 euros. I think I'm correct in saying it's 57 euros if you're under the age of 65. Once you get to 65, it goes up to something like 150 euros. So there's a huge difference. 57 euros is, I mean, what's that? That's 570. It's about 600, 700 euros a year for Convenio Especial. You can get a pretty decent private health cover for not much more than that.
Yeah.
As I say, if you've got preconditions, then it's always worth perhaps thinking about. Well, it depends on the condition itself, but I would always say, consider switching to Convenio Especial after 1 year.
And you're covered for everything. They'll treat you for anything if you've got Convenio Especial.
The only thing that it doesn't cover is medicine. Prescriptions, you would over the counter prescriptions, you would still need to pay for that.
Yeah. We actually had. Is there anything else that Karen's asked there that we can answer? Do we? Oh yes. Can you convert BUPA to Sanitas, or do you have to start again with quotes?
No idea, but I believe. Well, I say I have no idea. I believe you can. But you would need to speak to Sanitas or BUPA.
Is that the same company then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sanitas is you just need to look at the logo. It's the same logo, it's BUPA.
Oh.
You probably just need to speak to them. I believe you can. But then again, you might be able to get a better policy. I don't think Sanitas is the cheapest at all.
Yeah. Okay. We were one thing I haven't mentioned yet that we haven't talked about is accident cover. Some provide accident cover, and others it's an optional add-on. It sounds a bit crazy. You think you'd be covered for accidents with anyone? What do you mean by accident cover, and why don't all policies have it?
It is crazy. I was asking about this myself. It's essentially, again, some companies do cover you. They'll say, I suppose it's road traffic accidents. That's what we're talking about. Road traffic accidents. And if you are involved in an accident, then it will be covered by by your car insurance. If somebody hits you, it's covered by their insurance. What ASA told me is that basically they don't include it automatically because of the fact that it is covered elsewhere. But the problem is, if you get involved with in an accident where the driver of the car is uninsured, then you may have a problem. But you have got a problem. So there's a little bit of a gap there in the law. And what ASA have done is they brought out a separate accident, and it just covers that gap. But it also gives you €10,000 worth of life insurance as well, or disability insurance. So it's not just you covered them for the accident. You actually, if anything serious happens, then you've got a lump sum as well to look for. Well, not to look forward to, obviously. You won't be around, but you know what I mean. There's a bit of life cover involved in that of €10,000. It's accident insurance doesn't cover it. It's not for things like you falling off a ladder at home or tripping over the cat and scalding yourself with hot water. It's nothing like that. It's as I say, it's road traffic accident.
It's the big stuff. Yeah. Just as a little follow-up, we had a question from calls himself Steve, but it's Svetoslav is his full name. He's coming across as self-employed person. He's going to be covered by the European Health Card to start with, the EHIC for emergencies, of course. But of course, once he registers as a self-employed person, he's saying, am I covered for health?
Yes, it's what I did. It's what we did. We were over here for several months, and
yeah. So that's just like being on the Convenio Especial, but you're not paying for it separately. It's all part of your social security payments.
You just need to get your autonomo set up before you go and apply for your residency.
Yeah, and I was talking about that last week. I actually showed on the screen the form that you have to fill in at the health centre once you've got your health cover certificate. Then you take that in and you get your health card, and then you're covered. So thank you for that question, Steve. Salas. Donna's asking, do the Salas premiums go up with age? Well,
yes, they did. They did. But as I say, this year they got a brand new policy out, which is actually very good. It ticks all the boxes. I'm not sure if this one is any different, that it doesn't go up with age. I'll check on that and get back to you. I've actually not really seen it in action yet. It's just I've had all the policy documentation, and I've managed to get a copy of that. So yeah.
Okay.
But certainly, ASA are the famous one because the logo is the age you join is the age you stay.
Huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that makes it easier,
Donna's asking also, can you buy statins in Spain without a prescription?
Pass, but it's just as easy to go to your doctor anyway, and he'll give you a prescription.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff is over the counter anyway in Spain. I mean, I can walk into a pharmacy and get antibiotics, as many antibiotics as I want. As I say, my wife was on rat poison for embolism, and again, what we got is we got one prescription and we kept it. We kept going back to the pharmacy, and they kept giving us more. So it may be something like that. Is you would need to get the first one from a doctor, and then and then the pharmacy may well say, yeah, bring that back, and we'll give you some more. But the answer is I'm not sure. Check.
Yeah.
Check with your doctor, and then once you've done that, you can ask the pharmacy.
Yeah. Okay. Someone's asking, can a policy be cancelled if you become ill and you're costing them too much? And what can you do about it?
Yes, you can. Again, acetone, it will be in your contract. It's in your contract, and some companies will, as I say, they're contractually obliged to provide you with healthcare for as long as you're with them. They can't cancel the policy. They won't refuse the policy at the end of the year. The other one, again, as I say, I was dealing with, coming into contact with a few sort of insurance companies in my time. DKV are one where it actually states on the contract that they can cancel the contract within the first 3 years. After 3 years, then they're contractually obliged to keep you.
Yeah.
I know somebody who's had their contract cancelled with DKV because they were pregnant.
Wow. That's not very nice.
But the other thing with that is you really do not want the stress of that, because if you become ill, as I said before, you don't want the stress of having to think about co-payments, and you certainly don't want to have the stress of thinking, well, are they going to cancel the policy on me?
No.
And the point with that is, if somebody cancels your policy, you've then got a precondition. So, are you then going to be able to go to another provider and get a similar level of policy? Probably the answer to that is no, you're not. One of the questions that they will ask you on your application form is, have you ever had a policy cancelled or refused?
Yeah.
So it's not good. It's not good.
That is going to get you into trouble.
That is the one question that you really do need to ask is, can you cancel my policy for any reason whatsoever?
A quick and easy question from Barry again. My wife qualifies for Irish citizenship, so I assume would qualify for EHC. Yes, that's true. As a husband of 28 years, would that benefit also pass to me as a spouse? Well, you can get one of your own, I think, Barry, can't you? Yeah.
Next question.
And that's only an emergency cover, EHIC.
Yeah.
So that's not insurance. So there we go. Next question then. So we talked about waiting periods. One of the conditions that's met when it comes to visa applications is that there should be no waiting periods. So what are they, and do all insurers have no waiting times?
They should do. They should do. I as I say, I got involved in this because I couldn't get somebody. In fact, they were too old. That's what it was. They were too old to get an ASA policy. So I went to another company and I said, can you help me? I need to get the policy for this person. I think they're about 83. And they said, yeah, no problem. So I'd seen the documentation. It was actually, I contacted them via LinkedIn and we had the conversation then via WhatsApp. So I'd seen the policy documentation. I'd seen the certificate that they got to provide to the consulate. And it was perfect. It ticked all the boxes. And then I looked at the policy documentation and I said, but there's waiting times on here. And I said, does that mean the certificate that you present to the consulate says one thing, but the policy documentation says something completely different? And the response to that, this was on WhatsApp, more or less with the laughing emoji. So it's like, which is a problem. And I'm not, as I say, I'm not so sure that the actual consulates look at the policies in any great detail. I think they look at the certificate that they receive from the insurer. They just take that at face value. They don't sort of start digging deeper into the policy documentation. If they did, they'd probably find that 50% of them weren't, acceptable. And it also begs the question that, if that's, because effectively that certificate is guaranteeing or saying to the consulate, we guarantee that we will provide this person with health cover for 1 year. if anything then happened to that individual once they got into Spain, say after 3 months they needed treatment because, I don't know, they found a tumour or whatever, and then they went to them, they would suddenly then find out, well, you're not covered because you've got a 12-month waiting time for that. So how that would then tie in with what they've sent to the consulate, I suspect the insurer would be in, a bit of hot water over that.
Yeah. And the waiting time, is that waiting time for operations and?
It's waiting times for most things like physio, anything. I go back to DKV. They don't have any waiting times, but what they say is it's waiting times on emergencies only.
Yeah.
So things like hospitalisation, there is still a 6-month waiting period. So if you need to be hospitalised for anything that isn't anything other than emergency, you're not going to get in.
Yeah. It sounds a bit crazy because I was told by my bank, who tried to sell me an insurance policy, a health insurance policy, that the big advantage of private healthcare is that you don't have to wait. You've only got a couple of days and you can get anything you want. Whereas if you're on the public health service, you've got to wait.
Well, it's difference between waiting periods and waiting times. I suppose I should say it's a waiting period, because some of the waiting periods, if you take out any policy in Spain, the majority of policies, there's going to be a whole raft of waiting periods, whether it's hospitalisation, whether it's things like physio, and they'll range between 1 month, 3 months, and 12 months. Yeah. So the cancer might be 9 months or might be 12 months. That's your waiting period. Once you've gone beyond that waiting period, then the waiting times are basically next to nothing. I mean, when I first arrived in Spain, I'd gone through my waiting period, and then I found that I needed I actually Googled it. I'm quite good at Googling. I'm very good at being my own doctor. So I diagnosed that I got an umbilical hernia, and I'm petrified of hospitals or injections or anything like that. I don't like them, especially general anaesthetics. And I realised I'm going to have to go and see the doctor about this, because it's getting a bit of an issue. But I knew myself what it was, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to go and see him. I'll probably get sent to a consultant, then I'll have to have an operation, and I will probably get about 3-4 weeks worth of building myself up to this, psyching myself up, because I'm really not happy about this at all. I went to see my doctor, Dr. Semler in Javier. If anybody's in Javier and they want a good doctor, Dr. Semler is your man. It's absolutely brilliant. He actually refused to call me Lyndon. He said, this was on my first visit. That's a silly name. It's not a proper name. I'm going to call you Mark. So ever since then, he's called me Mark. Anyway, I went in to see him on I think it was a Tuesday morning. He looked at me and he said, yeah, you need to see a consultant. Can you go this afternoon? I'll ring them up. Can you go this afternoon? Oh, yeah, I suppose so. Anyway, he rang them up. He said, we can't get you in this afternoon. You'll see him in the morning. So the next morning, I turned up at Denver Hospital, the private hospital there. I think I waited about 15 minutes, saw the consultant. The consultant had a bit of a look and said, yeah, you need an operation. We can do it on Friday. So it was that quick, and I was hoping really I'd get at least 2 weeks to sort of build myself up to this. But on the Friday, it was, you were there. So things like that. There was no waiting times. As I say, my wife also needed a CAT scan. That was the same day. They did the CAT scan the same day. Or it would have been. It was actually the next morning. I went in to book the appointment, and they said to me, "Where is she? Is she here?" And I said, "No, she's out on a boat somewhere in Calpe." And they said, "Well, can you get her in?" I said, "Well, not really." Well,
you need a megaphone.
Yeah. So she had to be in the next morning for this CAT scan. Yet later on, we went through a period where we didn't have private healthcare. When we moved from Javier to Granada, or we were about to move, So she had to go to the public. She used the public health service, and that was a 3-month waiting time for a CAT scan. So yeah, there's the difference.
Yeah. So the waiting period is basically the time that you're not actually once from the start of your policy, you can't claim on something for the first waiting period. Great. Wendy's got a return question. You said it's easy to get prescriptions over the counter and pay, but if you have private medical, all prescriptions are then free through this insurance if the condition is covered. Is this right?
No, you pay. It's very cheap. It's relatively cheap in Spain anyway. It's relatively cheap. The only time that you would get free medicine is if you are hospitalised, and it's all free. It's free then. But over the counter stuff, it's not free. It's cheap. It's relatively cheap compared to the UK. And often, I can get something like, I suppose about 300 paracetamol for like €1.50. It's not. Obviously it depends. It depends on what the medication is. And if anybody's got any doubts about that, they can ask me, and I will ask Valentina, and she has a list of the costs. She knows most of them. They're in her head because she'll have been asked for them before. And she will also know, the other thing that she will be able to tell you is if they're actually available in Spain, because a lot of them won't be. They'll have obviously different versions of them, and you'll need to go and see your doctor, and they will prescribe them. But they will pay. You'll need to pay. You'll need to pay on Convenio Especial as well. So there's no big difference.
It's definitely a lot cheaper than Ireland, where I had people in Ireland paying hundreds every month for prescriptions. But there you go. Question from Lee. Hello, Lee. It's waiting for his work visa to be accepted. Once I receive it and start work for a Spanish employer, am I covered for every eventuality? I think that should be. Or are there any exceptions where I may need extra cover?
No, it's the same as if you're autonomo. If you're working, if you're employed, then you're covered.
And you're on the public health system. They don't do sort of private policies there. There we go. And Wendy's response to your answer is, what? With a funny face. So thank you for that, Wendy. So she's amazed that prescriptions aren't free because she thought they were on a private policy. There we go. So zipping through the last few questions, it's nearly 11 o'clock. We've done nearly an hour, so I don't want to go on for too much longer than that. Partly because my landlord's coming to chop down some branches off the local tree, the tree just outside the window there, so it's going to get very noisy very soon. So quickly for these ones, do all insurance companies cover every part of Spain, or do you have to search for one that covers just your province or area?
No, so some insurers are better coverage in certain areas, even some of the bigger insurers as well. For example, I think in Granada we've got 3 private hospitals, so ASA will be connected to one of them. Certain areas, Valencia, the answer to that is yes, you are covered. But I would certainly, and as going back to the very first question, I always ask where you're going to, where you're staying, where do you intend to live? Can I have a postcode or a town? Whichever one you give me is good. And the reason I ask that is I personally go in and check to make sure that I've got the coverage there, and I've got good coverage there as well. And if I've not got good coverage, I will tell you. If you're living over in, say, Bilbao, I'm not going to insure you, because there isn't the coverage over there. If you're living in Malaga, if you're living all the way down the coast, perfect, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
I, for example, when I was in Javier, travelled up to Bilbao because we were going to the UK. And as we got into Bilbao, my oldest daughter said, I've got an ear infection. Crying her eyes out, in absolute agony. Didn't tell me before because she said, I thought you might cancel the holiday. So she told me as we were going to get onto the boat.
Oh,
And we're not, and there's not much coverage over there. So ASSA just wouldn't cover you if you lived in Bilbao. But what I did, you just get on the phone. I would have got on the phone to Valentina and said, look, I'm such a place. I need to go and see a doctor. And she would simply say, well, if you're there, your nearest doctor is, you know, such a postcode, go and see them. And that's it. So essentially, you know, if you live in Javier, if you live in Malaga, you're covered, perfect, no problem whatsoever. You've got all the hospitals, you've got the choice of doctors, you've probably even got a choice of hospitals as well. If you travel into, as I say, the north of the country, I wouldn't normally cover you, but that doesn't mean you've not got cover if you're traveling. And it's the same overseas as well. You're covered overseas.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And very quickly then, do premiums increase each year and by how much? I think we covered that earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
And also, is there a best time or age to take a policy? Yeah, we've covered that one. And S1. Let's call this S1 the subject to finish off all of the questions. We've talked about that. So can I just get that instead of getting private health insurance?
Yeah, basically S1 is a certificate of entitlement, and it tells the Spanish authorities that the UK government are going to pay for your state healthcare. Can you get it? You've got to be, if you're pension age, you're in receipt of a state pension, then yes, you will be entitled to S1. I've got S1. I know I don't look 65, but yeah, I'm actually using a body double.
Nice.
But you can, yes, is the answer. This has been a question that's been knocking around for a while. Right. Manchester and Edinburgh have confirmed that you can use S1 for your non-lucrative visa application.
Oh.
London, being London, haven't replied. That whenever you try and send them an email, if they've got anything relating to that subject on the website, they'll just send you an email saying, please refer back to the website. But I believe that Manchester and Edinburgh you can, but you need to get S1 to start with. And I know people that I've managed to get S1 whilst they're in the UK. I don't know. I spoke to somebody about this on at the Department of Social Security, or the department that deals with S1, and they basically said to me that yes, you can apply for it before you move to Spain within, I think it was in 28 days.
Yeah.
But they then went on to tell me that they will only send the S1 form or the S1 certificate to your Spanish address.
Yeah.
So that again could be a problem. But then again, I know somebody who deals with S1 and have actually, managed to get the certificates for them to use for the non-lucrative visa. But in theory, then, yes, you can do it. In Manchester, we know we've got it in writing that they say you can. So then the question is, you've got to get the certificate from the UK authorities.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of questions here about how long does the S1 form take to get? And some people are saying, I got mine in 5 days. It took about 3 or 4 months. Somebody's registered in September, not heard anything yet.
Yeah.
So there's no real answer to that, is there?
I mean, the real thing is, if you're on S1, then you've got obviously you in the Spanish healthcare. The thing with private insurance when you first move over to Spain is perhaps your Spanish isn't great.
Yeah.
The last thing on your mind, you're going to be wanting to negotiate the Spanish health system. At least having some form of, private healthcare, at least for the first year. You've got somebody there, customer service there who speak English. They can, in the case of Valentina, she can sort out your appointments for you. She can point you in the direction of any British-speaking doctors. Don't ask for a British-speaking doctor on any social media because you'll just get a serious amount of grief, people telling you to learn Spanish. So it may be that in the first year anyway, even with S1, you may well want to think about taking out private health cover because, it gives you it's just easier. It's just easy. It gives you a bit more peace of mind while you find your bearings,
Yeah.
and they speak English. And again, that's another thing. When you're thinking about going private, you need to look at the website. Is it in English? Do they have an English customer service? When we first got to Granada, we went with MAPFRA, and it was a nightmare. I don't think they've got anything. They don't have an English customer service. The website isn't in English. I mean, we get by, but if you're new to the area, you don't know any Spanish, it's very difficult. But you go onto the sort of the ASA website, you go onto any other website. If it's in English, they will give you a list of all the hospitals and a list of all the doctors. And generally, what you find is there'll be a UK flag next to it or a German flag, which states whether or not they speak English, German, Russian, whatever.
Yeah. There we go. So that is actually all of the questions that we were going to cover, and the only things we've got on the live chat are Barry saying, "Are we ever going to get to see the lovely views from your window you keep telling us about?" Yeah, one day. I can't turn my computer screen around to face that way, so I'll take some photographs. Thank you for asking. And Wendy's asking the same thing. And Lee Harding says, "I don't think Skatz is allowed a view from his cell." Thank you for that. Might give you a prize for that, Lee. I think it's about time we gave out some prizes, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. So let's make a note. Lee, can you, the best thing to do, get onto the U2 Spain Facebook group and leave me your details through a private message on there, and give us your address, and I will send something out from there. Anything else that you want to say about insurance?
No, if you've got any questions, you can join the Go Spain Living in and Moving to and Living in Spain Facebook group. I think we've got nearly 20,000 people on there. The only thing I do say is don't mention the B word, because I don't like it. It just causes trouble. You can ask away on there. GoSpain.co.uk, which is my website. It's got my phone number on there, and it's got my email address on there. So if you've got any questions, just either PM me or phone me, but not today or tomorrow. It's my wife's birthday today, so
happy birthday.
So no phone calls today, and or just email me, and I will get back to you within a day. If you don't have a reply, then it's probably got stuck in spam. So you need to give me a gentle nudge.
A bit of a prod. There we go.
Yeah.
So the prizes, by the way, there's pens. There's pens and. Sorry, carry on.
Right. The other thing is what we're also offering with ASA is we've got the doctor certificates as well. So you don't need to go to your own doctor to get this certificate. You don't need to have it legalized. You don't need to have it translated. If you take out insurance with ASA, we will do that for you, provided that it's in Manchester or Edinburgh. London is a little bit of a grey area, because they actually say we want a doctor certificate from a UK registered doctor. Mm-hmm. I suspect that's to stop people going to places like Mauritius and asking them, can I have a doctor certificate, or printing one off themselves or whatever. I don't see any reason why they won't accept a Spanish one, but I don't want to test it, because unless somebody's brave enough to try it. And the cost of that, we charge them £30 for the certificate, and that really covers the doctor that we use, and also the fact that we've got the postage, etc. So there is that. If you're in London or you don't want a doctor certificate from us, we will provide a big discount for your translation costs, and we'll do a form checking service as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
Great stuff. So I was going to say that the prizes that we have that we're giving out they're all from ASA, aren't they? So there's all kinds of pens and stuff, and wet wipes and disinfectant for COVID, and magazines, calendars, that kind of thing. So we'll put a sort of a package together, I think. So one of the winners from on here, which was Lee Harding, and somebody who asks questions on the video afterwards in the video's comments. So there we go. So 2 sets of prizes there. And so that's about it for today. Thank you so much, Lyndon. You've been
Thank you.
So full of information and very lovely. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
I'll come back
and
someday.
Yeah, and I'll speak to you afterwards about getting a hold of the prizes. We can talk about that on Messenger or whatever.
Okay, yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Great. So everybody give a nice big wave to Lyndon.
Thank you.
Say bye-bye for now. Speak to you soon.
Cheers.
All right. There we go. So just any more I have to say? Yes. Well, on next week's show, that's what you ought to know. I'm going to be talking to Matthew Wood all about buying or renting property in Spain. He's connected with Go Spain as well. So we're going to be asking what are the pitfalls. We'll have lots of hints and tips for you. So don't forget to join us at the regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland, or 10 o'clock if you're in Spain. And yes, I'll have some photographs of the local scenery for you. Don't forget to check out U2 Yoga as well, which is connected to us. That's my wife's channel. You can get free yoga and meditation classes to make you feel good all over, and U2 aromatherapy too. And of course, don't forget to check out our merchandise page. I'm going to be putting up some new t-shirt designs on there very shortly, so have a look for those, and I'll get one printed off and wear it as soon as the weather gets a little bit warmer, so I don't have to wear my hoodie anymore. All of the links for all of those pages can be found in the video description below. And that is all for this week. Thanks for everybody on the live chat. Thank you, Chris Aitken, whose name has just come up there. And thanks, Barry, Wendy, Lee, Jim, and all of the others. And if you're watching afterwards, do give us a wave on the comments. Just drop us a little comment. Even if you haven't got any questions to ask, then just say hello, give us a wave. So that's all for now. I will give you the final little bit of music and say peace and love. See you next week. Bye for now.